Well, welcome, and thank you all so much for taking the time to join Caring as a Superpower. You've answered the call to be superheroes by the virtue of caring. And just like other superhero origin stories, it may start with a humble background or a feeling of isolation or weakness in some case. But no, your caring is your superpower. And we're going to turn that all around and show you how in just a minute. My name is Jeremy N. Smith. I'm a life and leadership coach. And I've got a few moves. We may get to more than one, but I certainly have at least one big move that I want to share for turning caring, even when it hurts, into a superpower. And practice doing it and give some coaching support for whatever comes up. So thanks for showing and being ready to play and experiment with it. In the chat, could you share your name and one thing you would love to get from today's session? No promises I can do it, but it helps me to know. Come. Great. So Suzanne, reinforcement for an open heart. Love that. Great. I'm about to show you a literal, well, literal is probably not the right word, but you're about to see an actual open heart in a second. So you're on just the right track. And Jason,
Words.
recognition of the opportunity to make when experiencing care. So when someone's caring for you, Jason, or do you mean when you're caring?
No, when I'm feeling care, as we're talking about it, like caring,
Okay.
recognizing that as an opportunity to generate.
Right. Something that's happening for you, not just to you.
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
Cool. And Igor may be writing a sonnet.
I am not. I couldn't come up with anything.
Okay. Well, just in this moment, a different perspective. I saw it, you said in the chat. Okay. So just maybe there's something that's you've got your head, it's full of billion stuff, and maybe there's something to add to that equation. Okay. Is that
Yeah.
about right? Okay. Cool. So in the sort of blurb for this, I said, are you feeling angsty, angry, stressed, or distressed? And I'll just kind of get a show of hands. Could you raise your hand if you're feeling angsty at some point this week? Okay. All right. We got 4 out of 4 on the video. And anyone angry at anything this week?
I'm just gonna
We
leave my
got
hand up.
we got 3 out of 4, 3.5 out of 4. Okay. Anyone feel stressed at any point, maybe this calendar year since January? Okay. Wow. Okay. Okay. We got 5 hands out of 4 now. Good. Okay.
Hmm.
And what about distressed? Is that ever something that's come up? Okay. Cool. So angsty, angry, stressed, and distressed. These are some of the things that we're actually going to take and have them before us and turn them into sort of superpowers, weave that straw into gold. Um, and there may be other feeling. Is there, if you were to name like one other feeling that's coming up these days, um, that's in addition to angsty, angry, stressed, or distressed. What would just be one other, Suzanne?
Dismay.
Dismay. Yeah, sure. I'm going to add fear,
Certainly worry.
worry. Yeah. Got one more, Jason?
Um, uh, I feel like urgency.
Yeah. Okay. So hurry, urgency, a certain pressure. Cool. So let's take these and we'll slow down and we'll start. Mm, I'm going to sneak preview this. Okay. I'm just going to sneak preview the open heart. Okay. So we've got the open heart. Do you see the blood and the glitter and the viscera? It's red, it's pulsing. If I put it over here to the right, it's going to kind of like disco ball on me reflection wise with the light. And we're going to get to this in a second, but this is a special heart and we're going to get to it. So when something raises a strong emotion, and I'll just say anger or frustration, for example, a strong, what we sometimes call negative emotions, it's actually a positive sign in the sense that it's putting you in touch with your values. And we're going to get into what on earth I mean by that. So, kind of like this flip pillow, this is of course, a sequined flip pillow. So, you've got this negative thing, and it's putting in touch this positive opposite. And that's kind of what we're going to experience and experiment with. See, what on earth do I mean by that? So, for example, if I'm in a situation where that's not fair, is what's coming up, maybe the value is justice. If that they didn't even thank me, maybe the value is appreciation. It was maddening. Maybe the value is order. I felt stifled. Maybe the value is adventure. And so on through peace, connection, love, fun, creativity, whatever else is your particular value. And your values, hey, Marco, welcome. Your values are what matter most to you. So satisfaction in this life is just about satisfying your values through action. So like, ta-da, satisfaction equals satisfying your values through action. So when you take action to satisfy your values, my premise is you will have a satisfying life. You will have satisfaction in that particular moment. It is like an appetite, a hunger being satisfied. So the question becomes, back to the flip pillow, what is the value at play in your anger or your stress or your fear or whatever else is going on that lets you know what you're really hungry for? In that frustration, etc., is the tools for satisfaction. So I want you to think of, before I move on, could you kind of raise your hand if that, or hand, could you touch your nose if that sort of is resonating so far? Or if you have, okay, I got some, okay. Do you have a question anyone have a question on that before I kind of blast to the next part with this?
Reiterate the definition of satisfaction that you
Yeah.
gave, please. Values, satisfying
Satisfaction
values. Yeah.
is
Okay.
satisfying your values through action. Okay. So when you take an action, so satisfaction is something you get through action. Okay.
Mhm.
That's basically, it's an action to satisfy a value. And it's not just satisfying anything. Looks like my dad dropped in. Awesome. Hey, Dad.
Okay.
Um, we got Suzanne, you're in like a fraternity. Uh, it's hilarious. I think were you with the last one where it was like it was like 18 women and two men. So I don't know what I'm doing. But and Sarah's here, don't worry. She's gonna pop in a minute. So I want you to think of the last time or any recent situation when one of these feelings came up, okay? When the heart was exposed, okay? When it was pulsing red. So it might have been anger, it might have been frustration, it might have been fear, it might have been stress or angst or distress. But I actually want you to think of a specific. Mom's here too. Awesome. See, Suzanne, I told you we're gonna get you covered. Um, we're gonna so think of a specific situation where uh you were activated. And for me, for example, I was hoping to go to like a PT, a kind of physical therapist kind of thing, a special physical therapist on Monday. And I was told I couldn't go to that one. I had to go to like a general checkup first. I went to this whole general checkup. They tried to do x-rays for things I didn't have issues with. I just sort of felt lost in a system. And then I finally saw someone and he said, well, I can't tell you anything. You'd have to go to this physical therapist and you could self-refer to that. You didn't need to see me. So I was like, why did I take 2 hours? Why did I have to go through these x-rays? Da, da, da. So that was an example for me where I was definitely feeling the red. Okay. So I invite you to spend a moment and just think of a situation and just land it on an actual moment. It could be reading something, but it could be experiencing something. It could be big or small. Maybe one share. Marco, are you up for sharing one? Anyone up for sharing one? I can't tell if he's saying nodding no for not sharing or no for saying I don't know what my audio. I don't even know how to turn on my audio. Okay. Any okay. I think he's in progress. He's hacking his way in. He's
Oh,
coming in. Yeah, go
am
ahead.
I
Yeah, you're good.
speaking now?
We can hear you,
Oh,
Marco.
good.
Go for
I think men are not good at this.
Okay.
it.
Well, there's that too. Yeah.
Yeah. What came up for you, Marco, as one example?
Hmm. You know, this is interesting. I actually I'll pass. I'm trying to think of a specific instance rather than something kind of more general.
Positive.
So
Cool. Okay.
I'll if you go to someone else and come
Sure.
back to me,
Yeah.
I'll think of something.
Igor, do you have a specific? Jason, you had a specific?
We were at
Uh,
a restaurant
All right, we got Carl. Go for it, man.
Carl.
and we were told they took no reservations. And we walk in and they say, we would like two. And they said, we'll hand us a buzzer. And the woman smiled and expect us to go away. And I said, and how long? And she said, an hour. And I said, you should have told us right away it was going to, we're going to sit there, send us out. And I might add, the you keep showing that heart, but I feel it lower.
Okay, good. Go ahead.
The,
Yeah.
the
The
anger, I
vis.
feel it in the sudden tension or whatever, more in the belly.
Okay. So
My
that's
heart remains pure and above it all.
okay. That's awesome. Um, Suzanne, did you have one too to add to the mix?
Um, I was accused of having lost my sense of humor entirely yesterday.
Okay,
And that was very
entirely.
distressing.
Is that like a COVID thing, like a long COVID, you lose your sense of humor? Um, she's
Uh,
laughing. She's laughing. So we're gonna have video for to send that person. So we'll have this will be the clip. So no matter what I give you, we'll be able to show you laugh.
uh,
Okay. So whatever the situation at hand, and you don't have to share it, Marco, but have you landed on one specific? Okay. Awesome. And Sarah's about
Yeah.
to come in too. Okay.
I don't know. I'm thinking of like just
Hey, Sarah.
multiple rejections, whether it
Yeah.
be like poetry contest or a job or and not even that like I had any sense of entitlement like I deserved it, but even still just the feeling of like I knew that I could do or I knew that I could achieve this thing and still getting and okay, I'm not gonna uh, I actually really hate the poetry rejection letters. They're so generic and lame and they don't tell you anything. So
Okay.
that was just
Yeah. Okay. He put his finger on it. Thank you. And let it speak. Whether it's the heart or the stomach, you're letting it speak. So Sarah, I know you're coming in from just having helped somebody else. We're thinking of a situation where a big, negative feeling came up or a frustration and anger and angst. Do you have one example, Sarah, you could offer?
Uh, yes, I can think of several that have to do with work.
Yeah.
Um, Here at UM, just sort of a mindset of scarcity
Okay. Yeah.
that has plagued our university system for a long time. Um, and that can have lots of different impacts on, how people respond to things, the decisions that are made that have negative impacts. Um, so for me personally, my Department of Geography was terminated.
Okay.
And the Department of Geography was launched in the 1950s. And I somehow ended up being the last chair of the Department of Geography. I just was in I don't know, that place at that time. And there was really nothing I could do about it to halt this process of dissolving the department. It was really kind of out of my hands. Um, so I've had to grieve that.
Well, that's a perfect example, and that makes perfect sense. And I just want to note for those of you who weren't, or you might, if you're not in the chat, Sarah was just helping a student. So just to give a sense of her dedication, she's coming from chair, the department story, and then your caring is something that you were doing in action literally 30 seconds ago. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks.
So whatever story came up for you, the invitation now is to think about what were the values that were not being satisfied. So rather than we put judgment, it's like this is that they're this, that, and the other, we think of what are the values. So when I thought of mine, for example, it was care and it was consideration. It was in that kind of doctor's thing, it was considering me as an individual, not sort of a something to send through a larger system. And, valuing my time and money and also just health and and also just offering care. That's why I came in the first place. I was something I wanted care and I just wasn't able to get it in that situation because of that kind of dead ended in that part of the system. And it was going to take another step. So for me, again, just to kind of go back to this, and Sarah, you might not have been here, like if satisfaction in this life is just finding your values, and then taking action that satisfies those values. That's sort of the premise, if not necessarily the true etymology of that word. Um, I just want you to think, what was that situation telling you? In other words, if this is the raw feeling, what was the value that was underneath it for you? And the exact same situation could have different values for other people. So I mentioned justice, appreciation, order, adventure, peace, connection, love, fun, creativity, and there's, 100 others. So I invite you to spend a minute or two and really, actually, I'd like you to write it down if you're able to, uh, for yourself at the very least. And when you've got it, maybe do one of those like the hand wave, just the hand up kind of reaction that lets me know kind of where we are. And you may change your mind later, but this is kind of a first stab at this at least. Suzanne, have you landed on it? Cool. I thought you might have given me a thumbs up that I missed. And Sarah, are you in process? Or you've got some down? Okay. Okay. We're all here. Cool. So love to yeah, hear some. Uh Suzanne, would you be up for sharing what kind of you landed on as a starting point at least?
Um, kindness,
Yeah.
just being treated with kindness.
Kindness. Yes. So opposite that, kindness. Awesome. Um, and without even us having to know the story, though, you're welcome to share it. Igor, what came up for you?
It was a security and family.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, this was a situation earlier in the week where my son had a health issue that we thought was minor, but like it was the middle of the night, so I called like the advice nurse, as you
Yeah.
do, as we have through our doctor, and they were like, "Oh, you should probably go to an urgent care or an emergency room in the next hour." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. So,
everything's okay. He's fine. He's totally fine. Nothing bad happened. But in the moment, it was very scary.
yeah, of course. And I had care. I'm adding these little by little to the whiteboard. Yeah, Jason, what came up for you?
Um, I was thinking about a report that I was reading on securing superintelligence, and it made me feel like, yeah, peace, security, border, justice, all this stuff was coming up.
Cool. Peace. We had security. I'm going to add
Yeah.
peace, order, and justice. So yeah, we're getting some great what? We're getting some great stuff on the whiteboard. Cool. Marco.
Uh, I was thinking about self-worth or worthiness. They're
Yeah,
not the same, but they're related anyway.
great. Beautiful. I'll kind of scribe that sort of like this. Does that work for you? Okay. Sarah?
Sure, I was thinking about service,
Yeah. That's a
and maybe in the context of, well, to, family, but also to students, others, and the earth, service to the earth. Yeah.
and keep those examples in mind. The value is service, and you're kind of already you're doing some pre-work for our last step. So that's great for students, families. That's perfect. Okay. I've added service. Jane, you hit a space bar, or I can probably hit a button that gives you a button to unmute.
Let's see. How are we doing?
Great.
Well, I think that I kind of missed the beginning, so I'm not sure I'm going on the right prompts because talk about tiny little moments of frustration and anger. Workplace Zoom decided this was the moment to update the software.
Okay.
So I was stuck in a software update loop rather than actually joining this meeting. But that was just annoying. What actually goes to my heart and my stomach and all those other inner parts is just reading the headlines every day. And all the kinds of things that people have talked about, justice, compassion, uh, are certainly there. But the other thing I thought about was I don't know quite how to describe this as a value, but foresight. So much drives me crazy when things are happening either individually or on a larger scale where people just obviously have not thought about what's going to happen 5 minutes, 5 seconds, 5 years later. And I'm there saying, well, what did you think was going to be the result of doing this? But thinking about the result was never part of it, and that just uh, makes me crazy.
Yeah. Okay. So I've added compassion and foresight. Um, that's great. And, crazy, just to be clear, if that's something that is an issue, then peace, calm, and confidence, for example, are the kind of the flip side of that. It's like, I don't want to be crazy, I want to be at peace, or I don't want to be crazy, I want to be understood, or I don't want to be crazy, I want to be confident. Or I don't want to be crazy, I want to be calm. So the same exact thing could have different values underneath it, just to sort of articulate that. We've got a little bit more room on the whiteboard, and we've got one more superhero. So yeah, Carl, what was coming? What was the value that you were kind of seeing underneath that?
Well, I think it may be already there in other words. I'm talking about sympathy / empathy,
Cool.
a sense of I say trying to see things from the other person's point of view.
And it's right next to consideration, which is nice.
Right. And let me give a quick shout out to Sarah as a lifelong professor myself. I winced when I heard your story. I've dealt with so many situations like that where you're just told by people who really don't do the work how the work is supposed to be done.
So that's actually a beautiful segue because it's an example of the consideration that you were looking for being practiced yourself. So our step 3 is this. Now you have the menu. And it's interesting. Different situations can invite different value, can invite the same value. And the same situation could also invite different values. Okay. It really depends on you as a person. And so it's important to stop and really check in your heart, check in your gut, check in your head. what is the value that's kind of being crossed here? And then you know, okay, this is what's really important to me in this moment. You may have all these values are important, but this is the one that's not being satisfied fully. And so there's that lack of satisfaction. So the last step that I kind of invite you all to consider in a forward action way, something you might be able to do today. What's one thing you can do to satisfy that value that you identified? It is not to satisfy it, perfectly and forever. It's not a set it and forget it. Just like if you want chocolate cake, you can go get chocolate cake, but you haven't had chocolate cake forever. But you've satisfied some of that appetite in this life. So if your tank with that value is at, going toward E, you're starting to fill it up, and it will run a little bit further. Okay. So for example, for me, as I mentioned, the values that came up for me were care and consideration. And what I did is I stopped when I got home and I noticed that I had like driven 20 minutes muttering to myself. And I said, okay, this is a moment to do the flip pillow. And I found care and consideration on the other side. So how could I add some care and consideration to my life? How could I do that? So one thing I did is I booked a float tank session. That's just like, not a massage, not a manicure, but like a thing where you sit in a thing where you float. And for me, that's just like a form of self-care. That's something that serves me. So I did that. I booked it. It was last night. It was great. I vented to my wife on purpose. I chose to do that. I said, could I vent to you? And oh, that's so frustrating. Da 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 da. And that was a source of consideration. Okay. The next day, I woke up and I was not as frustrated. Okay. I had started to move my tank, but I could go a little bit more. I had sent this email out. I said, okay, I got to be a role model. I got to have even more for this Zoom. And I texted two different friends for two different kinds of help on a yard project. And it was me asking for care, which can be vulnerable or whatever, but it was something that I wanted. I thought it would actually be a really good fit for them. I knew that I had like a treat for both of them in their own way. So I knew it'd be mutual. And even if it hadn't, so what? It was satisfying the value that I was looking for. But there was a mutual care. And as Carl kind of exemplified, you can offer the value that you're interested to somebody else. It doesn't always have to be receiving it. That could still be an expression of that value. I got a text from a robot that said, thank you for your visit at the doctor's office yesterday. Could you fill out this feedback form? And I said, I would love to. And I did. And I'm really proud because I'm glad I didn't do it on Monday. But I did it with a lot kind of clear eyes. I was much more resourced. I was much more in the blue. But I was still able to say kind of on a fact basis, like what had occurred to me, what had been frustrating about that, what my kind of hope for something different would be. And I appreciated them asking, and they said, do you want to post this directly as a Google review? And I chose, no, I'm going to let them process it first and see. But, that was a chance to offer consideration and receive consideration. That was an expression of consideration. At least that's how I received it. What they do with it, we'll see. But often people do things with that stuff. So I knew where the tank was empty and I took those actions to fill it. I am not in this moment, in fact, frustrated with that experience. Your mileage may vary. But the point is where you are experiencing the depletion can doesn't have to be where you get it filled. Okay. So life is a dynamic system. And you don't have to, if the parking machine eats your money, you don't have to get the money back from the parking machine to get the money you need to proceed. Okay. If that metaphor lands. If not, ignore it. So this is my last prompt. What is one thing you can do today, this weekend? It may be something you set up like I did with the float tank. It may be something you reach out for, like the friends haven't come over. One I'm going to see this afternoon, one's going to be next week, etc. What's just one thing you could do, whatever the value that you named or the values? And it doesn't have to be big. It can just be, a little bit to fill that tank. And when you've got 1, 2, 3 things down, let me know by, doing the little thumbs up, either with your actual body or with the react thing in Zoom. Way to go, Suzanne. I see you, Jane. Carl, Igor, Jason. Okay. And I see, Sarah, you're in progress. You just let me know when you've got it down. Awesome. Maybe we'll go, I don't know. We'll ping pong a little. Sarah, you just came up with yours. It's freshest in mind. What was your value again? And what did you come up with?
Well, the value that I was thinking about was service, to others, and various communities. My immediate family, students, um, Earth, the Earth. Well, one thing is, it just so happens I took a, a, a craft class at Lifelong Learning Center. It's totally out of the blue for me to do something like that. It actually happened to be last night, but it was my effort to help me create something that I could share with somebody else in sort of the spirit of service, I guess, and so we made these wreaths, not like Christmas wreaths, but like decorative, like springtime wreaths. It was super fun. We were working with all natural materials that our instructor had grown actually. So I got totally inspired about this because many of them are that we were working with are pollinators. So I was thinking I should plan to plant some of these plants that would serve our pollinator community and that I can harvest and use in wreath making and then make wreaths for it's like pretty ambitious. Make wreaths for my friends to brighten their day. It's pretty neat. Um, so I don't know if that's sort of on track with what we're thinking about, but um,
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking about. Yeah.
Could could you raise your hand if you'd like to live in the same universe as Sarah?
I'll make you a wreath.
Yeah, could you raise your hand if you knew Sarah before this call? Okay, so just there's someone, just realize there's people out there that are literally going to a wreath workshop, planting the thing, saving the bees, making wreath for their friends, and on meeting you is like, and I'll make one for you too. Okay, just like I don't know what values you chose, but like, wow, that's filling me up. Awesome. Um, Suzanne, you just had a cool smile as when you finished writing. And I know you came in, not necessarily with a smile this morning. So yeah, just kind of curious what came up for you.
So my value was kindness. I was just I organized a TGIF with my fellow retirees from Iowa State that live all over the country now. And it's always the last Friday of the month. So I was just thinking, well, I can try to make extra sure that I ask people how they're doing, on the call.
I love it. Yeah. And how does that occur to you? I saw a shrug, but also a smile. Yeah.
Uh, I'm not sure how to answer that. I think that we're all sort of fraught with what's going on politically, um, and just how deeply we, the folks in that group, care about. Like we're all scientists for fuck's sake, and they're trying to destroy the planet. Sorry, but so there's just a lot of shit that everyone's dealing with.
Yeah.
That it's just on some level kind of unimaginable in any sane universe. So so I guess kindness is really does need to be a superpower among many other values that we have.
Yeah. What is one person, just to kind of give a name to someone on the call that's coming up?
Cheryl,
Cheryl.
yeah.
What's the extra dollop, the sort of the whipped cream you might add to kindness
Oh,
to Cheryl?
well, so she moved to fertile Minnesota
Okay.
or northern Minnesota to help care for her 97-year-old mother
Okay.
as when she retired. And so her life, I sense she says that she feels constrained
Yeah.
quite a bit in that. And so I just want to send, you know, she deserves incredible kindness.
And I want to welcome, I know Sarah A is here too. You're welcome to join in on video if so moved. What is the yeah, what's just you may change your mind in the moment of what the specific is, but what's either the word or the action or something you'll offer her this evening?
Oh, it's going to be a while in the future, but just that, we want to visit her.
Okay.
We want to
Okay.
go and visit her. Yeah.
Awesome. That's perfect. Great. Cool. Road trip. Who's in for the road trip is it fertile or fertile? We're not sure yet. We're gonna find out.
It's fertile.
Fertile.
They pronounce
Fertile.
it fertile.
Fertile, like
Yeah.
like Myrtle. Got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. That's awesome. Um, yeah, Igor, I was curious what came up for you.
Sure, yeah. So this is always this is always a question, a little bit of a tension for me. So today's a work from home day for me, and my kids are at school. It's a Friday, so basically, if we're around, we pick them up when we can. And so, like when like 3:30 rolls around, and I'm like, well, they're out of school now. We know that I can go, I know that they can go to the library, and I can get a little bit more work done for the next couple of hours, or I can just go pick them up and bring them home, and then get a lot less work done because now like they're here. And so, but I think I was thinking that I would just try to pick them up as early as I possibly can today.
Cool. So, and what Igor is, exemplifying is choices are choices, and it could be a trade-off of values at some point. And you get to make the choice toward the value that you're hungry for in this moment, right? And it's no shade, we know your dedication to work. I know your dedication to work, your focus, your achievement. So it's not in doubt to me. And I'm sure if that was, what was at stake or what was you were hungrier for, you could fill that tank, and you are going to fill that tank. And Igor, though he is on the Zoom, he's on Pacific time, so he hasn't even hit 9 a.m. So he's doing, and just to be clear, this is you may not have known it going in, but it turned out that you spent a lot of this hour connecting with your love and care for your family already, and then you're going to actually do that through action. Um, Suzanne, I wanted to circle back. I forgot. So you're going to mention this trip, or you're going to say, I was thinking of you today, and I was telling people I'm making that trip. It's not going to be tomorrow, but I'm doing it. Will you say that
Yeah,
to her?
probably. Yeah.
Cool.
Well, no, yeah, I'm going to say it to her. I don't know if I'll say it to the whole group,
Sure,
but
sure. But you'll let her today.
yeah,
You will
yeah,
reiterate.
yes,
We're on our way.
yeah,
Start fluffing the
yes,
pillows. Okay,
yes.
cool. Um, Jason.
Um, my response to uh, feeling insecure in the face of a looming upheaval of economy, society, and everything else is building raised beds in my garden, which is the plan this weekend.
And what was the value again that in this case you identified?
Peace, order, security.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, right. Uh, even if you're a fundamentalist, it all started at a garden. Okay. So it's there's some common ground there. Cool. Awesome. Raised breads. Awesome. Leave something for whatever those wreaths that Sarah does. Leave a spot for them. Those seem good too, because you probably want community too. And it's not just yourself. That's beautiful. Um, Great example. Marco, what was your value again? And what what came up for you to kind of satisfy that value?
Yeah, my value was self-worth or worthiness,
Yeah.
related, not the same. Uh, yeah, the things I came up with, which seem to echo a couple others that folks are sharing. I fall under the heading of like having a genuine encounter with another person or other people. So mine was like, walk around the neighborhood and greet a stranger slash neighbor, or talk with a friend on the phone. So I have quite a few very good friends who are not near geographically. So
Great. Kind of giving you that same Suzanne challenge if you're up for it. Will you name a friend?
Matt
Cool. Will
lives
you
in San Diego.
will you reach out to him either to make contact or to actually have the call today?
I can try. I know he has some strange work hours, and he's also moving into another industry that takes up a lot of his time. But yeah, no, yeah, and Matt is someone who I can reach out to whenever. So
So
yeah,
you can at least say I want to talk today, whether you talk today or not.
yeah.
Cool. And then meanwhile, this stranger, there's going to be what's the kind of vision? Just to say hi and just kind of have a genuine slow down, or is it like, are you carrying sunflowers? What's the story?
Well, I mean, right now I'm looking out my front window and I see this apartment building. I think it was last Sunday. It was on Easter Sunday. I just took my coffee and went out for a walk, and there were a couple neighbors in one of the downstairs apartments that I'm looking at right now who just kind of came out with their dog, and I was just like, "Oh, can I pet your dog?" And I just ended up introducing myself, and we chatted, and it was very fulfilling. And then I ended up like walking around the neighborhood and actually running into a neighbor that I didn't even know was a neighbor. Caroline, who is the director of the Missoula Writing Collaborative, who's like lives like 3 blocks away. So that was yeah. So it was just this like abundance of connection
So,
in a few block radius.
so you let your coffee take you out on another walk.
Yeah.
Cool. Beautiful. And it's cool. Yeah. That you, if anyone else is in an apartment building, maybe there's someone looking across the street and just thinking that you're cool, even though I don't know you. Uh, yeah. Mom, Jane. Yeah. What came up for you?
Well, a bunch of things. Let's see. I think the two words I came up with seeking were compassion and foresight. And last, this is a retrospective, but as I mentioned, like Jason, like all of us, I'm sure I'm very frustrated and fearful about events that I really can't control. But excuse me, last Saturday, someone asked us to go to a second hands-off rally in downtown Pasadena, where we are right now. And I was busy and I hadn't even heard of it, and I wasn't sure anybody was going to come because it was really poorly publicized. But I thought, oh, she really wants to do this and she really wants someone to go with her. So I'm going to do this. And Carl and I did it. And of course, it was wonderful because there you are with a whole bunch of other people who that strange exhilaration of being with strangers who share your enthusiasm for expressing how pissed off you are, which is a strange kind of jolliness. And, marching from one rally another 5 blocks down to stand in front of the second protest in front of the Tesla dealership. Super fun, wonderful posters, gives you a great sense of fulfillment and fellowship. Is it effective? I don't know. I certainly hope so. I understand sales have gone way down. So my Schadenfreude is kicking in full time, which is possibly another superpower. Another thing I mentioned was foresight. And on a personal level, there are lots of things, people I have been putting off contacting for various reasons of shyness, hesitance, knowing I was going to ask them for something, blah, blah, laziness, busyness, or the whole panoply of excuses. And I said, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to write to all these people. I'm going to plan this trip. I'm going to make this happen. And of course, people were absolutely wonderful when I reached out to them.
Okay.
So that made me realize how ridiculous my hesitance was and how wonderful my friends are.
Oh, excellent examples of good ruckus and good peace. Uh, Sarah and Carl, I'd love to hear from you. Time, if you're able to stay. At the same time, I want to respect the time I set up, so allow others in a minute. If you need to exit, otherwise we'll go 5 extra minutes as a bonus. Uh, I just kind of invite you to take in, all of us, to take in what you said, what you heard from others, what's worth stealing there. And this whole like Jason and Jane kind of raised, like, is this going to fix the whole world? Da, 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 da. We are the world. Okay. So, like, if this is the world, like when you flip yourself, that's part of the work. Okay. So doesn't make it all like this, but you can do your part, and getting your own values satisfied turns you into that superhero that becomes this positively contagious connection. I'll at least invite you to consider. Thank you so much. Those of you who may need to leave early or leave on time, I should say. And the last two things I'll ask are, yeah, we'd love to hear Carl, Sarah, whatever you kind of gathered. And then maybe just a closing word from everyone else who remains, and we'll be done within 5 for those who can stay. Carl, what came up for you? Yes, and Marco's brought a whole new species to the.
Just somebody say, I'll try to be quick. That list on your whiteboard, I think what it disturbs all of us is that every single one of those values are being violated right now. And not only that, we're being told that they're the values of weakness. And that obviously grabs me in the belly. Again, this fundamental decency, kindness are with me. The thing is, in situations of this, getting back to empathy, is try to be empathetic yourself, especially to people you don't know, as well as to people you do, that recognize that they have difficult lives as well, and try not to be impatient or angry or whatever, and try to praise them when they are doing their job. I think both in your case and mine, the person was basically doing what they were told to do, and would have been criticized had they done it another way. So, but in the moment, they're the person that's there, and so it's tricky. What bothers me about those surveys that you get is that they rarely, they basically only want praise, or how well are we doing, and how much would you recommend us to somebody else, rather than how are we doing our job. But what can I say? Try to practice empathy yourself.
Great. And Sarah, what did you gather from our, flip pillow festivities? I know you came in a little bit late, but you probably heard some beautiful stories there. What was maybe you'll lead us in the takeaway. What's one strength or superpower, or just move that you thought, said, or heard?
Well, I
I'm
think
sorry. I'm sorry. Oh, Sarah, forgive me. There's two Sarahs. I was asking.
there's Sarah.
I was asking the other Sarah who's coming in later. You also came in a little bit late, but you were here for the heart of it. I apologize. Sarah
Right.
A
I
is
was
what I should.
confused. I'm
Totally.
sorry.
No. Of course. Sarah A. Yeah.
Yeah, there's Sarah. Um, I came in. I did come in pretty late. I was having trouble getting in the Zoom. I did miss kind of the bulk of it, and but I did hear some great stories about connection, and it just kind of made me think of and I heard a lot of people obviously talking about the situation that the crazy flaming sinking ship we're on, and I do think that connection is a superpower when dealing with that, because I think that people say, like, how are you preparing for what's coming? And I'm like, well, I don't know what's coming. I'm preparing by building the strongest community I can, because that's the only thing that's ever saved anyone is connection. And I think that building each other up is kind of all we can do right now. Like, I don't know. I think that, maybe some people think that that's kind of a cop out. They're just like, no, you can fight, and you can write letters, and you can, and like, sure, you can do all those things. But I think that building each other up, like, directly, is indirectly fighting whatever's trying to break everybody apart. So I mean, so that's that's kind of what I thought of. yeah, thank you so much for having this. I mean, this is an important, exactly what I'm talking about, like an important tool. And, you know, this is connection, and this is, you know, fighting against disconnection.
Community is the only thing that has ever saved us. Was that, I'm paraphrasing. What is that your phrase roughly? Yeah. Um, if that's kind of resonating with you, could you kind of raise your hand? Yeah. Yeah. So I think you not only got a lot, you brought a lot. So thank you. Um, yeah, just closing word from everyone. Some spirit, value, source that you're leaving with. Suzanne?
Thanks for everyone being so open-hearted and sharing so much. Thanks.
Igor?
Just to echo what Suzanne said, I really appreciate I guess the emotional honesty. I think honestly that's rare even with like friends. So whatever you created here, Jeremy, is really great, and everybody else.
Jason?
I will do small things while I ruminate about big things.
Jane?
Well, Jason said it so well. Continue to reach out. Thank you all for being here. Some of you I know vaguely, many of you I never saw before, but it's wonderful to meet. Jeremy, I've known for a while. Uh, and like going out on the street, like planting a garden, like talking to your neighbors, meeting together like this is really important and really helpful. Thank you all for coming.
Sarah H?
Well, thank you for this very joy-filled time together. Yeah, joy is a value I didn't put on my list, but would like to add that. Yeah. Thank you.
We got it on the board.
Great, thanks.
Sarah A?
Yeah, thank you for everyone for being here, and thank you, Jeremy, for organizing this quiet superpower building. I think that, you know, like I said, there are ways to fight that are loud and overt, and there are ways to resist that are quieter and more peaceful.
Carl?
Well, I'll just add to the gratitude, including, can I say, a personal level gratitude for Jeremy.
Marco? And back at you, man.
Well, yeah. Thank you, Jeremy. I'll echo what others have said. But one thing that I've been thinking about lately, and it's something I came up with a couple of years ago that has seemed to get lost in, I don't know, my sort of depressive or self-isolating stuff, but to have one genuine encounter with another person every day, at least one, and it's easy to, think that the virtual spaces, it's easy for me to diminish like the virtual space as having the potential for that, but this is at least one genuine encounter with many people, first thing in the morning or close to first thing. So, yeah.
Well, it's beautifully said. And yeah, when you're feeling flipped, just, it's all right here. if you need the visual aid, last time I checked, they're at Target for, about $8. So I'm sure you can get a keychain version, but you've got him with you. So next time you feel the caring as that stress point, this is this process to consider turning it into a superpower. And you've just demonstrated and witnessed, experienced how many other people pretty much immediately benefit from you doing that flip and how contagious it can be. So I see you in your spandex and yeah, just celebrating you and yeah, keep caring, keep feeling, keep flipping. Bye-bye.